last year, New Zealanders overwhelmingly voted for change. And that is exactly what this new government is bringing. We campaign, New Zealand First, to take back our country and stop the disastrous economic and social path that New Zealand was on. Vernon Small refers to the, quotes, present government facing a fiscal hole of $5.6 billion. In short, that's what he says is the gap between what we've got and what we're going to have to, on the face of it, pay for. There's no sugarcoating. We inherited a broken economy, a fractured society, and a country on the road to social disaster. That road was paved with the breathtaking naivety and incompetence from a lost Labour government. Labour cared more about feelings and ideology than the duty to competently govern our country. The insidious creep of racist co-governance that has spread through legislation and the public sector, everywhere, all the way to the real estate licensing provisions. Everywhere, manipulated. No manifesto coverage, no campaign, just under the radar, dirt of this type. And what were the media saying about it? Deafening zero. And ladies and gentlemen, we're never going to make it out of this demise if we tolerate that sort of behaviour. Not just ideological theory, it was race-based theory, where some people's DNA made them, sadly, according to these people, and condoned by their cultural fellow travellers, their DNA made them somehow better than others. I've seen that sort of philosophy before. I saw it in Nazi Germany. We all did. Labour has left us a folio of failures and a barrage of broken promises. It's actually breathtaking. And I don't think anyone can point back to a past period of our history where this has happened to the extent it's happened in this way. A crumbling, underfunded, overwhelmed health system. An education system that has seen a record number of children facing and failing basic standards and truancy rates. How can we possibly educate our children if more than 50% aren't at school? The Defence Force, that had lost more than a third of its personnel over the past 3 years. And there are some people in this country who don't care for a Defence Force, but let me tell you this, if you want to face the real world or get any respect, you better do something about pulling your weight. An undermanned police force, hemorrhaging officers to Australia, massive shortages in recruitment, massive increases in crime and youth ram raids and violence that are simply out of control, and gang numbers that have ballooned over the past 3 years. And on top of all of that, we had a cost of living crisis. A housing crisis with skyrocketing prices and unprecedented numbers living in emergency hotels, costing millions of dollars every day, just for Labour to take its conscience away from the streets and put it somewhere else at your expense. And a mental health system that has seen more and more people in desperate circumstances, where they deputed $1.9 billion to this purpose and got so confusingly bureaucratised that they built 5 hospital beds. Well, it would be a laughing matter if it wasn't so darn sad for so many young people. But where was the clamour from the gallery of the media shouting out, what on earth's going on here? No, a deafening silence.
Yes, that's right.
Why would that be? Well, I'll tell you why it is, because just last week, in a few days, we've seen the implosion of a party on the left called the Greens. How many people down the far end down there covered how incompetent the Green Party are? Hopelessly incompetent. People claiming qualifications they haven't got. If anybody else in this system had made those demands, they'd be hounded out of Parliament. So why are they still there? And then you've got somebody who's described in the media article as a corporate high flyer. This is the latest one with the morco on her chin. Given to her by elders? Never asked that question, did they? No, just, oh, this is brilliant, this is green, we all love this stuff on the left. They couldn't run the school tuck shop. And it's all imploding. one after the other. The most awful thing to happen, which no one in this country, in a real sense, and I think in the media, without condemning them in this matter, have quite grasped what they're looking at. It's the uncontrollable level of new migrants entering our country, over 133,000, over 133,000 net in 2023 alone. None of which was forecast or told to you by anybody in the Labour Party, the Greens or the Pāti Māori, or dare I say it, our friends in the gallery. 133,000. That's more than the total population of Dunedin in just 12 months last year. Now, where was the funding and plan for any sort of infrastructure to cope with such numbers? The health infrastructure, the education infrastructure, housing infrastructure, and all the utilities required for that. Any political party or government that can do that should go out of power and stay out of power. Ladies and gentlemen, at the last election, voters did disagree in a massive, historic repudiation of Labour. And on the 14th of October last year, the people of New Zealand voted for change, although it seems some in the media and the opposition parties refused to accept the result. In the ashes of defeat, there they were, saying that you didn't know what you were doing. How's that? These people have never had a real job in the main. Right? They've been sucking off the taxpayer for years, all their life. In Hipkins' case, probably forever. There's no one more expert on Labour's contempt for democracy than, with all a sense of humility, the person you're listening to now. Why? Well, having governed with former Prime Minister Helen Clark, one can say that there are light years between her and the last two Labour leaders in their most basic understanding of democracy. And right now, in March 24, they are hell-bent in a race to the bottom of the political wilderness with Pāti Māori and the Greens. In other words, these three parties are arguing over who can be most culturally woke and go the furthest to the left. You hear them on the interviews, you watch them on TV, always over-gesturing like an Italian waiter. They got a vowel sandwich for every word. The more vowels, the better. Make them sound good. And they're getting away with all this bull dust. Until now. Labour, dramatically and sadly, has deserted the traditional blue-collar workers of New Zealand. They have deserted the true blue-collar workers. The slow boil movement of the party of the far left has caused a huge number of long-time Labour voters to feel abandoned by a party that once stood for the ordinary, hard-working Kiwi. Labour now seem to care more about left-wing social justice issues, ideological crusades and woke cultural Marxism. The very same failings and racial obsessions of the Pāti Māori and the Greens. Did you see the Māori Party come to Parliament, the opening Parliament this year? They had half of the plumage from the native birds on their head. Truly, I thought they were protected species, but no, half of them on the head. And they're anti-mining, but they had half the greenstone around their chest. Truly. And an absolute contempt for a place that took Māori to Parliament in 1867 and saw people like Ngāta and Pōmare and Buck in a great former age. And before that, Deputy Prime Minister Carroll, way back centuries ago. Here is this theatre where Māori have got now greater numbers than ever before because of MMP. And here they turn up with this outrage and shouting the rest of us down. That's right. Being here 5 seconds, shouting the rest of us down. And if you're Māori in this audience, you tell me we're on the marae, that sort of behaviour is loud. You're allowed to have a difference of opinion, You're allowed to disagree, but where on the marae is that sort of behaviour allowed? But no, the very interface of Māori coming to Parliament in the form of the Pāti Māori is now saying, that's us, that's our image, that's how we behave. And our response from New Zealand First, oh no you don't, sunshine. The once great Labour Party of Savage and Fraser has turned into the party of moral outrage and political inertia. But just now, before I go any further, I want to talk about my friends in the media. And by the way, can I say to you all in the media, welcome back. New Zealand First has always believed and held the view that the Fourth Estate is essential to any successful, functioning democracy. But it's not just the existence of the Fourth Estate that is essential, it's the need of a Fourth Estate that is impartial, politically neutral, fair and objective. Is that too much to ask for? These are the qualities and attributes that the public expect of an effective media in a free society, something that is lacking in much of the media landscape, alas, today. One of those reasons is the increased lack of trust in New Zealand's media that has seen much of the public actively avoid engaging with them. The impartiality of media should be the foundation of its reporting, but in the main it has morphed into the past few years to rely on opinion, narrative agendas and clickbait. And who gives a rat's derriere what some of you guys think? Over the past 4 years in the sign-up of media outlets to receive 55 million of public funding through the Public Interest Journalism Fund. Did you get that? The Public Interest Journalism Fund has cemented that mistrust from the public for obvious reasons, most of which it seems is lost on the very media outlets that receive those funds. Can you believe the number of people had a go at me when I said you took a bribe? Wow, you should have saw them getting steamed up. How does he dare say a thing like that? Just took it for a fact that what they did was above board. It's a plain fact that in order for media organisations to be eligible for funding, they had to sign up to certain criteria and conditions. Yeah. Is that true, gentlemen and ladies down there? Yes, it is. Including reciting certain narratives of the Labour government at the time. Jacinda Ardern herself said when addressing the issue of alternative or dissenting views about COVID-19, she said this in quotes, "We had to act, so we made it a priority to establish a public interest journalism fund to help our media continue to produce stories that keep New Zealanders informed," end of quotes. Or in short, funding media to promote a government narrative, the, quote, single source of truth. And before some smart aleck says, but you were there, the answer is, oh no, I wasn't. When they came to us, we said, you must be joking. We'll be accused by everybody else of giving a bribe. But they went around the ownership and said, that guy's stopping us helping you. Didn't they, gentlemen at the back? And ladies? Come on, tell everybody here today. One of those conditions was based on a purely political view that is not supported by many in New Zealand or political parties. The statement that the media organisation must, quote, actively promote the principles of partnership, participation and active protection under Te Tiriti or Waitangi, acknowledging Māori as a Te Tiriti partner, end of quotes. Māori are a Treaty of Waitangi partner, end of quotes. If they didn't sign up to this condition, they wouldn't get the money. Is that true or false? The deafening silence down the back tells me it's true. If they didn't sign up to this condition, they didn't get the money. How can a politically neutral and independent media organisation give balanced political commentary, analysis, and in particular opinions, when this was the basis of the funds they received for their very survival? This was the sinister seed that provided the platform for inevitable political bias. It created a media environment where certain left-wing political narratives and agendas seeped into much of what the media presented to the public, where any opposing views were shut down, cancelled and labelled as far right or fringe. The current situation has highlighted that the mainstream media need serious self-reflection. We are in need of a fourth estate that's robust in our democracy more desperately than ever, but one that focuses on thinking news, not breaking news. And by the way, which was the only party in the last election that had a broadcasting policy, that still believes you should be supported properly and is not going to ask for any favour if you do your job properly. How's that? As you know, the new coalition government faces massive challenges. While there is much that's wrong with New Zealand today, there is nothing that cannot be fixed by what is right with New Zealand today. For our economy, infrastructure and cost of living, we're going to establish an inquiry into banking competition. We're going to find out whether Ned Kelly, who's been robbing Ned Kelly back in Australia, is not robbing us in New Zealand. How come there's been 5 inquiries by Australia into Australian banks and not one in New Zealand? We're going to strengthen the powers of the Groceries Commissioner. We know we're being ripped off in many ways because the costs don't match up. And the divergence is massive. Sometimes 16% cost spread or 19% cost spread town from town. We're going to establish a national infrastructure agency. We're going to, and already have, established a regional infrastructure fund, creating jobs and much-needed infrastructure around the country, in the provinces, where the great wealth of this country is created. And we're going to investigate the reopening of Marsden Point Refinery. Sometimes one looks at New Zealand politics and wonders, what is it about these appalling decisions that people don't get, including my friends in the media? When they allowed Marsden Point to shut down, they exposed us massively to supply issues, just massively. And with the coastal shipping closed down, we could nevertheless, in the old system, keep 50% of our critical economy going, including all the emergency systems. All that's in jeopardy now. And for restoring law and order in our streets, we're going to train 500 new frontline police men and women. Introduce measures to tackle youth crime. We're going to want to know where their parents were on the night or the day of the offence. Is it so wrong to give people social sustenance and welfare and expect something back? The 35 Labour Party demanded that, and they were right then and they're right now. The present crowd are just, how shall I say it, beneficent angels with no sense of accountability. We want to know what that child's doing there, because we're helping that family now. You're helping that family, and that's the least you're entitled to know. We're going to amend the Sentencing Act to ensure appropriate consequences for criminals. We're going to put the rights of the victims before the rights of the offenders. And on education and health, we're going to go back to curriculum on academic achievement and not ideology, including the removal and replacement of gender sexuality. And relationship-based education guidelines. We're going to repeal the Therapeutic Products Act 2023. And after Labor gave $1.9 billion for mental health and got 5 hospital beds, yes, we are going to, and New Zealand First is responsible for this, and exclusively New Zealand First, properly fund Gumboot Friday. And we're going to ensure Plunket is funded to do its job properly. Oh, and by the way, if you're one of those thriving, alive 65-year-olds, we're going to keep the superannuation age at 65 and upgrade the Super Gold Card and Veterans Card. And for strengthening our democracy and freedoms, ensure public-funded sporting bodies support fair competition that's not compromised by rules relating to gender. And here we are in this university town, but we're going to legislate to make English an official language of New Zealand. To all of our opponents out there, we say, for goodness sake, catch up. English is the language internationally of commerce. And we're lucky enough to speak this language that never started in England, it started in Germany. Don't you know that? It's worldwide, it's universal now. So let's make the most of it. We're going to protect freedom of speech for ruling out the introduction of hate speech legislation. We're going to end all COVID-19 vaccine mandates, still in operation. And it was we who promised a full-scale investigation into the COVID pandemic with widening terms of reference led by the right people to ensure you get the real answers. We're going to ensure national interest test is undertaken before New Zealand accepts any agreements from the UN and its agencies. We're going to remove co-governance from the delivery of public services. And we're going to prioritise the delivery of public services. We're going to stop all work on this fictional thing called Hey Pua. We're going to amend the Waitangi Tribunal legislation to get them going back to do the job they were meant to do. And we're going to amend the Marine and Coastal Area Act, which no less today has 600 claims for the New Zealand coastal environment. We fixed it in 2004. It was changed in 2011. Here comes over 600 claims to the maritime area of this country. And every Māori here knows, as every Pacifica person knows, the sea is our highway. That's how we got here. Over 5,000 years from mainland China, all the way across the Pacific to New Zealand, to all of a sudden, here we go, it's ours. No, for our nation it is an asset, but it's not based on race. After Waitangi Day, the ownership of land for all landowners, including Māori landowners, was guaranteed, and only the Crown had the right of purchase. Māori understood that back then, because the Waitangi event was something the Māori people asked for. Did not have it foisted upon them in the way people say now, in the way they insult their former leadership and their chieftains of that time, as though they knew nothing, and somehow because they went to some university they know everything. Why did I say this? Because British citizens we became. British citizens we became. We would be rule of law beneficiaries under the change and under Crown protection against other rapacious colonial powers. Today, what is being taught at universities on this matter denies the simple fact that neither Queen Victoria nor her successors could constitutionally enter with their subjects a partnership. You've got these massive blocks of fact which these people are skirting around, preaching something that is not true. And from this academic deceit and legal misconstruction have come all manner of demands based on ethnicity of race, inevitably to the benefit of self-appointed Māori elite, but inevitably, again, at the enormous cost of ordinary Māori. Ladies and gentlemen, to conclude, we must remember New Zealand is the beneficiary of Western values, democracy and the rule of law. We've all got something to contribute. We want to build a great new culture, Kiwi culture in this country, where everybody gets to have an input. Not forgetting our past and our differences. With cooperation, conciliation, inclusivity and teamwork, our country can make it out of the crisis to a better future for every New Zealander. We can become again the envy of the world. Remember, politicians are not meant to be your masters, they are meant to be your servants. Too much of our country was left in a real mess, and that's because the people who were suffering were not the ones who caused the mess. Our once great society was built on hard work and a fair go for everyone. We built a reputation for a fair go. Bold steps are needed now to lift our country back where it belongs. Countries that do well work together as a team, and everyone has a part to play. We have a plan. We now have hope. We together can change New Zealand. We will rebuild our country for the many and not the few. We will reconstruct our economy for every New Zealander and not just a self-appointed elite few. That is our vision, that is our commitment, and that is our commission, to protect and save this great country, New Zealand. We got knocked down, but we got back up again. Yes. And nothing's going to stop us now.